Welcome to Wilaker, a Journeyers podcast. I'm Will Abels, and this is my story.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.
Welcome back to Chapter 5. We are moving along. We're making it. We're getting there. This is a fun chapter because it's a very low-stakes chapter. And there really was a kind of calm before the storm, as most things are. But picking up where we left off, I was in Whittington, Illinois. I went to the barn bar. Had a great time. Schooled some locals with my old beer pong skills, but replace ping pong balls with a quarter and replace a red Solo cup with a small little metal ramekin. But now I am on my way up to Omaha for the first night of shows. Omaha was okay, I need to get to Bozeman. Bozeman's on Friday. What can I do between, Nashville and Bozeman to not just do comedy, but make a little money on my way up? I tried to set up a show in Rapid City on Thursday. That didn't work out. But ironically, whatever connections I did make to Rapid City have resulted in me now going back there this year to headline the West River Comedy Club. I'm finalizing those dates, but most likely August will be that. So, little things like that are indicators that this trip did play out. It took a while for me to realize that or for me to see the fruits of my labor, but it did eventually play out, hopefully. Well, mostly. But Omaha was also one where it was a Wednesday night. I'm not big enough to do the funny bone there. It's a small scene. It was a little, it was kind of like I have to be here. Let's try and do some comedy. And I was very fortunate in that I had some connections there. And Breanna Kalhorn, hopefully I'm saying her last name right, she was my connection to Omaha, and she set up a show at the Beach House. And I was down. I love an indie show. It's a venue that has music. They've done comedy there. So it wasn't just it wasn't like this is the first time I've ever tried comedy. Those nights are always a nightmare because they are packed and no one knows how to watch comedy. They lose their minds. But, Breanna set up the show. There's a couple comics before me, and I had to be in Omaha anyway, so whatever, And so I leave, and I'm driving up to Omaha, and it is just, it's just so pretty. I just keep stopping, and I'm just enjoying the plains, and I really got lucky in that I didn't have any bad weather the entire trip. And as I mentioned before, I need to reiterate this point, is that my anxiety levels, the baseline was just constantly at 65, 70%. I just woke up tense. And the balance to that was with all this driving, I am just seeing some of the most breathtaking, beautiful views I've ever seen. And so even though internally I am screaming, there is a calm around me because I'm just so happy, and I'm not driving in the rain. I'm not driving in the snow, nothing like that. I'm just getting gorgeous day after gorgeous day after gorgeous day. And this was no exception. So it's absolutely beautiful, and I'm driving up, and I'm stopping every once in a while to take some pictures, just being a goofball, just me and my little green Subaru, taking some pictures on the plains, And on my way up to Omaha, I check into my hotel, and I realize that I'm about to stay in a nightmare hotel. I didn't read the reviews. That is on me, and that has been a problem. I now read the reviews, but up until that point, I did not. I just went, oh, that's cheap, and that's what Expedia offered me, and I'm going to take it. And I stopped to like get lunch or something, and I'm reading these reviews, and they're like, this was the worst service I've ever had in my life. There was no shower curtain. All my towels were dirty. Like the sheets were disgusting. Which, you know, they're really like minimal problems when you think of the big picture. But I will say, like, I get nervous booking my lodging in towns I haven't been in before because I just don't know where I'm going to go. And if I don't have anyone advising me, I'm just always nervous I'm going to be in a bad neighborhood. And like that kind of stems from my first nationwide tour was in 2020, leading up to COVID. From January to March, I was out on the road, and the only real problem I had was in Phoenix, Arizona. I just booked a roadway in. Now I know, okay, sorry, didn't know roadway inns were what they are. I don't know how to describe them. But I pulled this roadway in. The room that they give me is the only room that isn't being lived in. Not just like it has someone staying there. People are living in this place. And I put my card down, I walk up, and the doorknob falls off. The lock up top is broken off. There's stains all over the carpet. And I was like, I don't think I'm going to survive the night. So I went back, got my money back, and then I went to a different hotel. That's sort of what I can end up doing on the road if I don't have somebody looking over my shoulder being like, you really want to do that? You really want to, that's where you think you want to stay? So I realized I was about to walk into a situation like that, and my parents were very kind, and they got me a proper hotel in downtown Omaha. So I go, I drop my stuff off, check in, I'm getting ready, and I'm about to go to the show. And then I step outside, and across from me is, I don't remember the name of the theater, but there's a theater, and on their screen out front that promotes the shows, I just see Josh Johnson's face. And Josh Johnson is going to be headlining there. He's going to be performing at the theater that weekend. And I was like, what are the odds? You know, and it was nice. I have, you know, I'm not close to Josh anymore, but we used to be buddies. And so I guess I'll go back into my little history with Josh Johnson. And if you don't know who Josh Johnson is, you must be living under a rock. Right now, he's one of the biggest comics working. He's doing something I've never seen in comedy, and he's doing a new hour every week, and he's putting it on YouTube, and it's incredible. But I met Josh, I want to say it was 2015 or 2016, but I used to work in TV production, and there was about a 2-year period, year and a half period, where I just didn't do any stand-up. I just got out entirely. Part of it was because of my TV schedule, and I just couldn't keep up with it. But also, just something wasn't clicking with me in comedy anymore. Like, I needed that break. And I don't really know what it was. To this day, I don't know what it was. I had a show that all of a sudden, just my brain was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I took about a year and a half, 2 years off. Was working a lot of TV shows, live TV shows in that time. But I was thinking about getting back. Like, I was thinking about getting back on stage. So I'm in DC doing a thing called it's like concerts on the Capitol Concerts on the Lawn or something like that. Basically, around Memorial Day and July 4th, they would do these Capitol concert series where like Barry Manilow sings on the Capitol lawn. These days, it would probably be like Jelly Roll. But back then, it was like Barry Manilow and, I don't know, like Melissa Etheridge probably. I honestly don't remember who the musicians were. But I met these guys. I met a guy named Josh Draper. Josh, I honestly could not tell you where he's based out of. He's always all over the place. Very interesting dude. And he's always got his hands in something. He's always on a new project. He's always taking 2 steps forward. He's an interesting guy. And Josh did comedy, I think, in L.A. And Josh was like, my buddy Gabe Marshall is putting a show together in New York. He's just getting into comedy. Gabe had a connection to, I believe he was an NBC page. And I think he was a page for SNL. I can't quite remember. But he was an NBC page. I'm a Letterman page, different from a CBS page. But basically, Josh and Gabe are putting a show together at Broadway Comedy Club, and this is me getting back into comedy, and the lineup was Josh Johnson, Ali Colbert, and me, and what a real murderer's row of just comics before back when, and look at them now. Josh and Allie doing great. Will getting there. We'll see. We'll see, because maybe they'll go back and look at that lineup in a couple years and be like, wow, I can't believe Josh Johnson and Allie performed with Will Abels. Oh, he prays. Oh, he prays. But anyway, that was like the first show back. The night before, Josh Draper comes into town, and we go to the Creek in the Cave for an open mic. And that's actually where I met Josh Johnson for the first time. And Josh Draper introduced me to Josh Johnson. He's also friends with Gabe. And that day, Josh Johnson had been hired by The Tonight Show. So I met him the day he found out he was hired by The Tonight Show. And he was like, man, I was like interviewing to watch dogs. And I was like, is this really what my life's going to be, is just watching dogs? And ironically, I did not realize that my life would be about watching dogs for the next like 10 years. But it is a moment of like, with comedy, you just don't know what's about to happen. Or, you always think it's going to be this one thing, and it isn't, I mean, this was 10 years ago. Josh is exponentially more famous and successful now than he was then. And in my mind, he was very successful. He had been working already. He was like in NACA and doing the college circuit. He'd already been a professional comic for at least 5-6 years at that point, and he's someone that I am so happy to see such success, because he put in the work, he grinded, and he was so nice the entire time. He was, selfless. He wasn't just an egomaniac like some of these guys are. So even back then, he was great, and in my mind was very successful then, even more successful now. And look, he was eating some humble pie, and about to take a dog sitting gig. Let's just say the last 10 years for me have been eating humble pie, but guess what? I'm full, and so I'm going to move on. But we do the show, whatever, and then I get a couple more, shows under my belt, and I'm kind of like, I had this career before I went into TV. I'm starting my career over in comedy. Why don't I do a half hour and just sort of retire the old material and just see if I can? Because, that is a goal in comedy, right? You want to go out and you want to headline, you want to run longer sets. And at that point, I don't think I'd really run a longer set. I did 45 minutes at Port City, Java in Hagerstown one time. And I don't think I was supposed to do 45. I think I was supposed to do 20. And I just started talking to my friends and filled up 45 minutes. But I was like, let's just do a half hour. And so I did a thing called Hey Guys. It was a show called Hey Guys. Hey Guys eventually would become something that comes in and out of my life. I ran a show in New York called Hey Guys for about 2-3 years. It became a live show out of my parents' front yard during COVID. We did it once. It was a streaming show during COVID. I brought it to Nashville, and same reiteration in Nashville. And then it eventually kind of just became an open mic. And now I just do it as like a one-off when I need a name for a show. But at that time, it was me doing a half hour, and I did it at the Pit Loft. It went great. To this day, one of the best sets I've had. I mean, just everything was fun. But afterwards, I was like, what do I do with this show? Because I can't do a half hour every single time. No one needs to see me do that, in New York at least. And I thought, well, there's got to be other comics looking to do a half hour. Somehow Josh and I start talking about it, and Josh was about to do his Comedy Central half hour, and he's like, I need to run this half hour. And I was like, all right. So I booked Josh for it. They gave me 2 dates in December. I booked Josh on both of them. And those were the first Hey Guys as it was as a show, outside of just me. And so that's my relationship with Josh Johnson. We go back to my second beginning. We were buddies for a few years. I moved, and I'll catch up with him from time to time. But it is incredible to see how successful he is, and I hope to one day work with him again. But either way, I am rooting for him, and I'm going to continue to root for him. And it's just great seeing good people doing good things, doing great things, honestly. So anyway, I walk out of my hotel, and there's just Josh Johnson's face, and I'm like, look at us. From Broadway Comedy Club with Gabe and Josh to the Beach House in Omaha and whatever this theater is called that probably holds 3,000 people. completely parallel careers and levels of success. But I can't remember if I texted him or if I tagged him on Instagram. I think I tagged him on Instagram and just was like, look at this. And he just was like, oh my God. Anyway, it was funny. It cracked me up. Now I drive 35 minutes to Beach House just outside of town, or maybe it counts as town. But as I'm getting there, I remember the clouds were kind of weird, and I was like, oh, I wonder if there's like a tornado warning or something. Because, it is Omaha. It's that season as well. And I get there, and the host is Ethan Richardson. And I walk in, and there's no one there. There's like 5 or 6 people sitting at the bar. They're old. They are very old. And then there's like 7 or 8 comics, local comics. And, the longer you do comedy, like, this is just what the job is sometimes. Like, you go somewhere, you do comedy in front of a bunch of comics, and then you hope that your name gets around and you get to come back and do the club. And that's sort of been my philosophy for a long time. Is just like, sometimes you go and you do the shows for no money so that you can come back and do the bigger shows. And, that's to be determined if that will happen with Omaha, but I haven't really tried to go back since, not for any particular reason. I just haven't had a reason to go back, and I still am not at a point where I can do their funny bone. So, it's also like, it's the first night. It's one of I think I only had 3 or 4 headlining nights lined up this whole trip, and those were supposed to just be kind of like, a couple extra $100 to get me to the next town, essentially. I am not anticipating making a couple $100 on this show. And, at first you're in a little bit of a bad mood. You're like, oh, come on. Like, we couldn't promote this a little bit better. But at the same time, you're in Omaha on a Wednesday at the bar outside of town. What'd you expect, right? So I kind of settle in. Bartender, the owner, incredibly nice, and gets me a meal, gets me a drink, like, couldn't have been more hospitable. So I sit down, I get to watch the comics, and there's like 5 comics going before me or something. They are all so goddamn funny. And that is one of the things that's so great about doing the road, is you just get to go see other comics. You get to just see different perspectives and new jokes and that kind of stuff. Because when you're in a small scene, Nashville's a small scene, you just see the same guys doing the same jokes over and over and over again. And you get bored, and you can't even, even your own jokes, you get bored. And then when you get on the road, you're like, oh, cool. And you get to also entertain, because they're like, what's this guy from Nashville got to talk about? And Breanna did a set right before me, and so I know her now, and I love her, and she's so funny. If you get a chance to check her out, please do. But she's deadpan, and if you don't know that, it doesn't, like, it's very off-putting. So she gets up, and she even says something like, there's an open mic after this, and don't worry, there's going to be way more people there. And I was like, what? Like, you're the one producing this show. Like, why would you shit on it? Once you know her personality, I'm like, oh, this is funny. So I get up, and I have a blast. I worked on some new stuff. One thing that Ethan said that cracked me up when he was hosting was, he was like, yeah, we got some, there's a chance of tornadoes, but it's only a 60% chance of a funnel. So whatever, let's do the show. And I was like, that casualness for a tornado is so off-putting. And so, I go up and I'm riffing about the difference between tornadoes in Nashville and tornadoes here. And I make fun of fake cowboys in Nashville versus the cowboys in Omaha. We got some old guys at the bar. I'm making fun of them a little bit, bringing them in the show. I make fun of the other comics a little bit. And overall, I just work on new stuff, and I have a really good time. And then the bartender, the owner, just, what a sweetheart, gives me $100 just for being there, just for doing it. And we talk about coming back and doing it in the future, and absolutely, definitely, like, would love to do that. And some of the comics buy some merch. They all brought some significant others as well. So, like, it wasn't like I was performing for nobody, but, it's a bigger room, so it felt a little empty. But yeah, great show, great first night. And it is really one of those where life gives you lemons and you make lemonade. And, that lemonade happened to be a night of comedy. So I hang out at the bar for a little bit, talk to the owner, and Ethan invites me to an open mic. I believe it was the open mic that Breanna was talking about. And originally I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that. Like, I got a lot of comedy ahead of me. I don't want to do a mic. And then I get back to the hotel. I drop my stuff off. I'm going to go out and explore a bit. And I'm like, I go to this bar, And I'm just like kind of watching people on dates and just like listening to them. And I was like, why would I not go hang out with other people? Like, why would I just sit here like a psychopath by myself? So I close out immediately and I text Ethan and I'm like, hey, where's this bar at? He sets it up, tells me where it is. I go to the open mic. Small audience, perfect for an open mic. New comics I haven't seen yet. They get me up. I go up. I do 5 more new minutes. And then I just hang out with Breanna and Ethan and we just chat about comedy and all the, like, just all the stuff that I like to do. Like, I love talking comedy. And yeah, usually it divulges in talking shit. But like when you don't know anyone in a scene and they don't know anyone, you're like, you know, you can actually just talk about comedy in a fairly healthy way. And that's what we were sort of doing. And just overall having a great time, you know, and it was not the early night in that I was expecting to have, but I didn't have anything to do the next day. The next day I had to get up to Rapid City just to cut down my trip to Bozeman. And that weekend I'm doing Last Best comedy with, I'm opening for my friend Adam Mamawala. I'm featuring for him. And so it's my first time doing Last Best. And, you know, that was a bigger deal to me than not to put down Omaha, but that was the bigger show on the weekend, and Omaha was my layover to kind of get there, but ended up being a great first night of comedy. You know, so now I'm 2 for 2 great nights, 2 great hangs, and I'm like, this is going to be the best trip I've ever done, right? So the next day, wake up, say goodbye to Josh's giant face across from the hotel. I didn't really take my time getting out of Omaha. I walk around for a bit. I could have powered through and caught the open mic in Rapid City at West River, but I just was like, I don't need to. I want to enjoy this. I want to enjoy this drive up, and I want to enjoy this trip. So explore Omaha a little bit, and then it's about a 7-hour drive, and I'm stopping a lot because I'm going through the Badlands, and it is just, I can't describe how beautiful it is. And it was just amazing. And I'm coming up on Rapid City, and it's around sunset, and I saw the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen in my entire life. And I've seen some sunsets, but I mean, it was purple. It was just a shade of purple and orange, and I shit you not, I started crying. Like, I just was like, this is just, because it wasn't just about the sunset, obviously. You know, I had this incredibly fun night before in Omaha, made some new friends, really enjoyed the scene, really felt like I kind of found myself on stage again for that half hour, you know, sort of had the spark back that I thought I was missing. The night before, I had that great, you know, impromptu night at the Barn Bar, and I was starting to feel like me again. But the problem was I was starting to feel like me again because I was drinking again. And I had yet to learn how to separate those two things because drinking was so much a part of my identity, you know, because like, it's not like I was a heavy drinker at 19 years old or a heavy drinker at 20 years old. But by 21, I was drinking pretty regularly. You know, I mean, I was in Boston. I had access to it. And so it was very much tied in with comedy, and it's very much tied in with my entire adult life. But I wasn't heavily drinking on this trip yet either, you know, like, sure, I partied a little bit in Omaha because I was able to walk back to the hotel, but I'm not like blacking out, you know, I'm not going too far. I'm enjoying a couple of beers at like a local craft beer. I'm doing that kind of thing. And if I have a show, I'm being very strict about drinking before the show or drinking during the show. Like, I'm really trying to turn over this leaf with my drinking and comedy and performing and all that. And so far on day one, that is, you know, I did it. So far, I'm 1 for 1 successfully doing that. And so, you know, I see this sunset, and I attempt to take a picture of it, but I couldn't capture it at all. I mean, just not even close. It was absolutely gorgeous. So get to Rapid City, and it is a tourist town, and tourist towns always feel a little off. You know, you're kind of like, I don't know where to stay. I don't know if it's a good area. I don't know. Everything was fine. It was just, it's just one of those weird parts of the country. And I get to my hotel. Half the hotel's under construction. And I go into the first room, and it smells like they had just painted it. And I was like, hey, did they just paint this room? And they're like, no, we did get new carpeting. And I was like, oh, is there a room that didn't get new carpeting? And they're like, no, they all have new carpeting. I didn't quite put together that it didn't matter where I was. It was going to just smell like that. So they give me a new room. It smells a little less because I think it had been carpeted on the earlier side as instead of the more recent side. But get set up in the room, and then I go and I explore Rapid City a bit. And nothing, very normal night, right? I just go to a bar, have a couple drinks, have some food, and I just sort of like listen to people around me talking. Didn't really engage with anyone the way I had the last couple nights. And that was the thing, is I was like, I want this to be an organic experience. I don't want to have to force conversation on people or anything like that. If it happens, it happens. And so, yeah, I just kind of enjoyed the night and went back, got a good night's sleep, and then I had to haul ass to Bozeman the next day to pick up Adam Mamawala. And little did I know, it was going to become one of the coolest experiences I've ever had in comedy. And it was years in the making, with not just friendship, but trust and doing a good job, and most importantly, being funny. And that's where we'll pick up on Chapter 6. So that was Chapter 5. That was Omaha and Rapid City. And yeah, I mean, really, it's again, right now, up to this point, there is a very positive tone happening with the trip. And I feel very in control with my drinking. I feel like I'm doing it at an appropriate time. I feel like I'm drinking an appropriate amount. I know that there is a budget that I am trying to stick to, that I'm, not overdoing. And so far, so good. Like, yeah, my anxiety levels are a little high, but that's going to happen. But so far, so good on this trip. And that'll lead us to Bozeman and Montana and Chapter 6. Thanks so much for listening. I'll see you next time. I'm heading back on the road, and boy, am I excited to share these dates with you. Starting with Friday, March 13th, I'll be at Monday Night Brewing in Birmingham, Alabama. Then I'm heading down to Orange Beach, Alabama, to headline Comedy on Canal on Saturday, March 14th. Then Sunday, March 15th, I'm heading back to Pensacola to headline at Club 27. Then I'm heading out west to feature for Ben Roy in Boulder at Comic Sense, March 19th to March 21st. Then I'm doing some spots around Denver before heading out to Tree Fort Music Festival in Boise, Idaho. I'll be there March 26th to March 28th. It's a fantastic festival, top to bottom. Catch some music, catch some comedy, and have some fun with us. Then I'm heading down to the Southwest to once again feature for Ben Roy at Laughs Tucson in Arizona. Then I'm going to Santa Fe, New Mexico to headline Cakes Cafe and Comedy Club on Sunday, April 5th. That's right, Easter Sunday. We're having some laughs in Santa Fe. Then I'm making my way to Dallas, where I'll be featuring for Cliff Cash at Dallas Comedy Club on April 9th. And then I'm headlining Dallas Comedy Club on Sunday, April 12th. All tickets and times are in the link in my bio on my Instagram at Will Abels Comedy. Come see a show.
Left home, gone coast to coast in a hybrid car with a bag of clothes. Back on the wagon, back on the road. Would you have my back when I'm all alone? On a wing and a prayer, all out of favors. Hope to get $1 and a smile out of stranger. As the story is told and the plot unfolds, we laugh not to cry, but it's not a joke. No, it's not a joke. It's not a joke.